Welcome to LaughNapkin, where we read stories from your favorite subreddits. Let's get right into it. A few years after I started my business, I was asked to clean up and optimize a number of PCs in multiple locations, as well as set up some forms and templates for a new client who owned a local restaurant. The work, all labor apart from a little travel, was performed over the space of a month due to scheduling conflicts and school holidays, but on completing the last of it, the client confirmed verbally that he was happy with all I'd done and to go ahead and send an invoice. I duly emailed an invoice for a sum just in excess of $400. I waited for payment. Never heard anything. Sent reminder emails, called and left messages, but no response. Eventually, a couple of busy months had passed, and I met the client by chance at a local supermarket. On asking why he'd not paid or been in touch, he said that all the PCs were as bad as they had been before I'd started, but that he had tried to contact me with no success. As my landline and mobile phone had caller display, as well as answering services, and there had been no emails, I knew the latter was BS. And as any PC user knows, a system can easily go back to pot if the user's bad habits don't change. So I contacted a local debt collector, gave him the details, printouts of my call logs and post-invoicing emails, and he took them to the restaurateur. On his return, his words were, he's not disputing the invoice. He's saying that the work wasn't done right, so it's his word against yours. I queried if it was worth taking the guy to small claims, to which the debt collector said even if you could prove he confirmed he was satisfied with the work, they might insist you get his computers back to their pre-invoice state again. Do you really want to spend more time doing that? Of course the answer was no, so I stewed it over in my mind and came up with a plan. At this point it was late November, so creating 2 throwaway email accounts in females' names, I got in touch with the restaurant to book a large party for Valentine's night the following February. I put it down as my husband's surprise 40th birthday party. Confirmed that my husband's sister, and CC'd her in the message with the other throwaway, couldn't make the journey north, but would happily pay the $10 a head deposit as her share towards the night. Of course, as time went on, the ideas grew arms and legs. The numbers attending increased until the owner suggested he'd reserved the whole restaurant for the evening, and they'd happily arrange the seating to suit us. But could I ensure the deposit was sorted ASAP, please? Of course, I confirmed that the sister was a scatterbrain, and that I'd ensure the check was with them very soon. He emailed the sister using the CC address, and she confirmed it had been posted. To keep him on side, I asked for a proposed menu in advance so I could send it to all the attendees for pre-ordering. Naturally, they were delighted that they'd known this, as it makes their life much easier. Consequently, the numbers for all courses were emailed in, with a few fussy eater variables thrown in for good measure. Needless to say, by the beginning of February, he was getting quite antsy about there being no sign of the deposit, but I reassured him that the sister's check must have been lost in the post, so she'd send another by special delivery, if they could ensure someone was there to sign for it. I knew the owner lived about 25 miles away, and the restaurant didn't open until 5 p.m., so he'd have to come in very early and hang around waiting for it. A week before D-Day, and he had obviously had enough, he emailed in a spat saying they'd turned away numerous inquiries, had no deposit, and could no longer hold back on taking other bookings. This time, I didn't bother replying. My part was done. My wife at the time and I booked in at another restaurant close by for our own Valentine's meal, after which we took a walk past the restaurateur's business premises to see just 2 cars in their parking lot, one of which was his. I'm not sure how much he must have lost out on that night, but knowing his prices, I bet it was significantly more than the $400 I'd invoiced him. Of course, lessons were learned by me too. Get written or emailed confirmation of job satisfaction for one, and not letting new clients go unbilled for too long was another. Naturally, I had no hesitation letting all and sundry know how he'd behaved either. So he was blacklisted, or forced to pay up front for any work by IT or other professionals I knew locally. This is some pretty good revenge, guys. It's been a while since we had a nice juicy story like this. I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed with OP. That's quite a bit of work to get back at this restaurant owner. Wow, let me know what your thoughts are about this story in the comments below. Let's move on to the next story. This happened in May and June of 2019. This is also a long story, so I apologize in advance. So I want to go ahead and give some background on everything. I had been searching for a room for rent in April of last year, and one of the places I searched was on Craigslist. I had a woman, we'll call her Karen, reach out to me from a Craigslist ad I had posted, and said she had a room available in Virginia Beach off a major street, and that it was a lovely area and all for $500 a month in rent. I met up with Karen and she explained everything after. I looked at everything in the house, including the room she had for rent, all while she was just jabber-jawing my ear off. She began to explain to me that if I were to move in, I would need to deal with her having a home daycare service for kids, which wasn't a big deal as I loved kids, and had been taking care of my niece since she was born, and I could help out if need be. This is important later on. She also explained to me that she had an autistic child, and that my room would be next to his. Finally, she told me that she has a pupper that she would like me to take care of at 5 in the morning when I got off of work. That last part wasn't really my cup of tea, and I explained that I had my own pet to take care of, and that me taking care of her pup is something that she would need to do herself, or have her son help out with the puppy. I could tell she didn't like me saying no to her, but she didn't pursue the matter. She also informed me that she didn't own the house, and that she wasn't allowed to sublet the place she was renting. I agreed to the terms and gave her the first month's rent with no deposit. We also didn't have a written agreement, but rather a verbal agreement, which was completely legal in my state. I regretted my decision for just a verbal agreement not long after, but I kept track of everything just in case I would need it in the future. Now, when I had moved into this place, I had a job that allowed me to pay all of my bills and then some. I was working 60 plus hours a week, and I'd been working there since December of 2018. The very first week I was there, I would always leave my fan on to circulate what little air I was getting in that room, and keep my cat cool. She ended up coming into my room and turning off my fan 2 days in a row, and said that she had the right to go in there in order to make sure I was saving electricity. This will become important later on in the story. Right before the end of May, I had gotten laid off of work, and was forced to start hitting the pavement looking for more work. Right before I started my job hunt, I had to tell Karen that I had lost my job, and I did. At first she seemed understanding, and told me that we would work on a payment plan, with 90% of my most recent paycheck going to the next month's rent, and the last little bit for my food. That all changed the first week of June. Come the first week of June, I had another job lined up and had gotten hired on for a managerial position within a company. At the same time, Karen did a complete 180 towards my situation, and she started saying that I needed to move out by the middle of the month, and that I needed to pay the rest of June's rent that I owed her. I was in shock by what she said, and was completely blindsided by her statements. On top of that, she was talking in a way that made me think she was on some type of drug. I don't know what drug she could have been on, if she was on one, but the way she was acting was reminding me of someone who had gotten a little too high. She also informed me that the parents of the kids she was watching were concerned about me because I made the kids laugh whenever I was around. She had made it seem like I was being some sort of creeper, and I told her that I was offended by the fact that she would even consider me to be a creeper, considering how I raised my niece from a 5-week preemie birth. I walked away from her without saying anything else. I decided that it was best for me to start consulting some lawyers, and after a couple of days, I was advised to inform her that I wouldn't be paying her any more money, and that if she wanted me gone before the end of the month, she would need to go through the formal eviction process and try to get an emergency eviction ordered. She proceeded to tell me that she shouldn't have to go to court because there was nothing in writing. I tried to reason with her, but she wasn't having any of it, so I left it at that and went about my day. The following weekend, probably the 15th of June, something had apparently snapped inside of her. I had just gotten home from riding my bike around looking for a second job, and was up in the room talking to my mom on the phone for about 30 minutes or so. Not even 5 minutes after I had gotten off the phone with my mom, I heard knocking on my door. When I opened the door, I was greeted by the Virginia Beach Police Department, who proceeded to start asking question after question, and finally asked me if I had made any threats towards her. I vehemently denied the accusation, and told the 2 officers who were right in front of me the timeline of what my day was like, as well as me being home for only 30 minutes and where my 30 minutes was spent. That was when I learned she called 911. The police ended up leaving because it was a he said she said matter, and they couldn't do anything. That day and the following day, she antagonized the living daylights out of me, trying to provoke a reaction, and I never gave her the satisfaction. Then on June 17th, she turned off the power to my room, changed the locks on all the doors, minus the front door in my bedroom, and told me that I wasn't allowed to use the bathroom for anything, and that included taking a shower. I had enough of Karen's crap. I was always so peaceful and respectful to her in her house. I went out of my way to help her with certain things that I shouldn't have had to help with. And for her to start making false accusations towards me and restricting access to certain things just made me want to get some revenge on her. So I started to put my plan into motion. After doing some hefty research the night she turned off the power on me, I had found out that she had actually violated several landlord/tenant laws. The very next morning, I rode my bike all the way to the Virginia Beach General District Court and filed 2 charges against her. The first one being the tenant's relief from unlawful exclusion, and the other one was trespassing upon private property, my bedroom. This was phase 1 of my plan. Phase 2 of my plan happened after I had left at the end of the month. Remember how I said she provided in-home care? Well, after doing some research, I found out that Karen was running an unlicensed daycare. There are 2 parts to my phase 2 plan. Part 1 of my phase 2 plan went into action. I made a call to CPS and anonymously let them know that there was an unlicensed daycare being ran out of the place I was previously staying at. And I believed the children to be in danger because she appeared to have been under the influence of something during the last few times I was there. I didn't hear back from CPS, and I never knew what happened, at least not until our court hearing. More on that soon. Part 2 of my phase 2 plan was now ready to be executed. I had decided to do some research into who the property owner was for the place I was previously staying at. After several long days of searching, I found out who it was. I made a phone call to the property owner, informing her who I was, and proceeded to spill the beans to her about everything. I gave her all the pertinent information she wanted, and after it was all on the table, I could tell that she was pissed. She thanked me for everything and informed me that she would be taking care of the situation in a more appropriate way. I didn't know what she meant at first, but I found out at the court hearing later on down the line. Fast forward to about October of 2019, and we are now at court. I come in having all my own research done, and she comes in with her hair a mess, she looks high as a kite, and all she has is some pictures of my bedroom. The judge gave me an opportunity to speak first, and have Karen try and rebut my statements. I thank the judge for giving me the opportunity to speak, and apologize for having to go this far in order to get the situation resolved. I then began to explain everything in great detail, referencing every wrong thing that Karen did with a Virginia state code, as well as a Virginia Beach city code. I was referencing so many local and state codes that I thought for sure that everyone in that courtroom thought I was an attorney. I finished my testimony and took a breath. My mouth was dry, but damn did I feel good for all that to be out in the open. When Karen was given the opportunity to speak, she fell flat on her face. She tried referencing things that never happened, tried making excuses for the things she did, and even went so far as to accuse me of being a stalker creeper who invaded her personal space every chance I got. While none of those things happened, the judge asked her what possessed her to turn off the power to my room, and she responded that a friend had recommended that she do it in order to force me out. The judge didn't buy it one bit, and found her guilty of everything that I had accused her of, and that included the trespassing upon private property. She then had the nerve to beg me to have the charges dropped, or asked the judge to reconsider the verdict. Her reason, she was no longer able to provide daycare services, and she was currently living on the streets as her landlord had evicted her and her son. She was trying to get another place, but house owners don't take too kindly to a tenant getting evicted from their prior residences. The judge said no, and said that she should have thought about what she did before she did it, and she should be thankful that all she got as far as judgments were fines, and not jail time. I breathed a sigh of relief, and went about my day. Looking back in it now, I don't feel bad at all. She got what she deserved for making my life hell. Wow, another good pro-revenge story. I can't tell you guys how long I've been waiting for some good pro-revenge stories. But anyway, that brings us to the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed these stories as much as I enjoyed these stories. And if you did, smash that like button. And if you're new to my channel, subscribe for future videos just like this one. And I'll see you guys in the next one.